It's a two-handed polearm, and it was invented in the 14th through 15th centuries. The German word for it is Halm, which also means staff. It was popular because it was cheap to produce, and it was also known for chopping through armor. It was used also for pulling horsemen off their horses, and mainly used by the Swiss armies, and the Swiss armies would also carry a sidearm for close range battle.
This is a tower shield. They were used in the early Middle Ages, and besides the rectangle one like here, they had kite shields which were rounded at the top and they tapered down to the bottom. They used smaller shields because they were easier to hold on horseback, and when they were dismounted it allowed them better leg movement. The tower shields would normally be held by the frontline troops, and they'd be spearmen with shorter spears or swords. They did have big shields. They were normally as tall as a man and usually wider, so anything in front of them couldn't really hit them. And they also provided a lot of protection from arrows, but most of the times they were about 2/3 of the size of a body at one time. When armor started to improve is when they started to cut down on size a lot, because they were able to take 2 or 3 hits in the armor before having to resort to a shield.
This is a longbow. This is a weapon used during the Middle Ages in Europe. It was usually taller than a person, about 5'8", 5'10", and it was extremely effective in the battles of the time because it was so good at killing people. Had a range of like 200 meters, and a good archer could fire 20 arrows in a minute, and they usually carried about 70 arrows with them, so it didn't last them very long. And yeah.
This is a flail. The first purposes of the flail was used by agricultural farmers, and it was first made out of wood and rope, and the military turned it into steel link, and they also made a ball out of metal, and it was also said to be too heavy to pick up and just swing at somebody, so you'd have to spin it in a circle to gain momentum. And the top of it is called a morning star, and that's why it is sometimes referred to as a morning star other than a flail. And it is used against armor because it could shred armor easily, and it also doesn't impact the wielder with vibrations because the chain doesn't transfer the energy to the wielder, so you could just pound people forever. And then it is hard to block or parry it because it is curved and it could go around someone's armor. And it's also used for good defense because if you swing it, there's no way to get to you without getting destroyed. And it also, the bad thing about it is endangers your allies because your allies could easily get killed by the span of it. Where the hell is the stop button?
Satisfaction.
Word for long dagger. It was invented by the Scottish, and the blade usually ranged from about 8 to 14 inches long. It was carried as a secondary weapon, which means they didn't have it right in their hands while they were going into the battle, and they usually would have a sword, and they would carry this on their side. Dirks were commonly single and sometimes double blade, which means both sides are sharpened. It was usually worn on the side of the belt, right around here, and they weren't always weapons. Sometimes they were used to show off wealth, covered with gold and jewels, and sometimes kings would carry them just to show how powerful they were. Okay, yeah.